Hello, and welcome to another episode of Critical Weight Theory. And this is another sort of show within a show that I'm going to do not very often, but occasionally. It's just called Killers in History, where we're going to look at some of the notorious killers. And this time it's Luis Garavito, aka the Beast, or La Bestia in the non English version. Anyway, Luis Garavito was a Colombian serial killer and, an abuser of children who confessed to murdering at least 193 boys between 1992 and 1999. His victims, typically boys between the ages of 6 and 16, were lured with the promises of gifts, money, or jobs before being brutally murdered and otherwise assaulted and tortured. So, this reminds me a little bit of Dean Corll, who was an American serial killer who was called the Candyman, even though I'm not sure to what extent he used candy, but uh, he had a way of luring people into his clutches, and it kind of reminds me of him a little bit. So, about the key facts here, his full name is Louis Alfredo Garavito uh, Cubillos, I believe it's pronounced. He was born on January 25th, 1957, in Colombia, in Quindio, Colombia. And his modus operandi was that he targeted the poor or homeless children in whatever area he was in. He gained their trust, took them to remote areas, and tortured and murdered. And as far as his arrest and conviction, he was captured in 1999. He confessed to 193 murders, but authorities believe the real number could be over 300. So, a very prolific murderer. His sentence, he was originally sentenced to 1,853 years in prison, but due to the quirky nature of Colombian law, the maximum prison term is 40 years. So, his sentence was later reduced to 22 years for cooperating with authorities, although he did die on October 12th, 2023, in prison due to health complications related to cancer. And, as far as the psychological profile, Garavito had a traumatic childhood, suffering from physical and, let's just say, other forms of abuse. He later developed extreme sadistic tendencies leading to his horrific crimes. He was diagnosed as a psychopath with antisocial personality disorder. So, it's not like his traumatic childhood, of course, justified his crimes. But when people talk about that, I think it's most often meant to sort of explain some of the behavior. I mean, to the extent that it really could be explained. And a part of his story is, of course, that there was the legal controversy involving his sentencing. His case caused an outcry in Colombia, leading to discussions about tougher penalties for serial crimes. So, it's one of those things like you get to debate as either a passive observer or somebody who's been impacted by, you know, either the specific crimes or similar crimes. And it's one of those things where you have to wonder, is it better to be passionate about it or dispassionate about it? Because it seems obvious that in some cases, yes, lock somebody up and throw away the key, but at the same time, do you want to do that in literally every sort of murder case. Are there situations where somebody could murder somebody and maybe they were mentally ill at the time or something like that? Obviously, in this case, with a very prolific serial murderer, the debate is pretty easy to win if you're on the side of keeping them locked up and away from the public, because their existence on the streets would be a serious safety issue and all that kind of stuff. So serial crimes, they make it a little bit more of a slam dunk case that, at the very least, even if you don't believe in the death penalty, you can agree with most people that, well, they should at least be kept somewhere away from the general public, right? I mean, that's really like the most obvious sort of conclusion to reach. So Colombia does not have the death penalty or life imprisonment, which makes, or it made his potential early release a major concern among citizens, because there apparently, at least at the time of his conviction, was not a life sentence. So, it was definitely legally an issue. Of course, he remained incarcerated until his death, and there was really no hope for a better outcome than him dying in prison, or something like that, because I'm not aware of a single case of somebody who was that violent and that prolific, who really did truly change their life around, or whatever. It just doesn't happen. You kill more than one person. It already makes you look bad. But if you're just doing such things over and over and over and over again, well, it makes it seem like there is no redemption arc. So, again, I don't think there's that much of a debate to be had as far as the basic premise of keeping such a person locked away is concerned. It just seems like the obvious solution. And, if you disagree with that, then I guess you could leave a comment. Like if you found this video on YouTube or something like that, you could go ahead and let me know what your thoughts are on this case. And some people, I'm sure, they'll be offended by the mere fact that I'm covering true crime type of stories here. But at the same time, it is something that I've been interested in for quite a while, and for some of the same reasons that a lot of people are. I just find it fascinating. Maybe you could say, oh, it means I've got a sort of dark side or whatever. I don't know. I'll leave that up to you to think about. But as far as I'm concerned, it's pretty normal and standard to be interested in these sorts of things, because they are pretty dramatic examples of what can go wrong in human society, and how you know life provides plenty of dangerous things that people actually should be aware of. So, in a way, as much as some people don't like true crime stuff, a lot of people do like it. And part of the reason it has a wide ranging appeal is that there's a slight public service element to this kind of content. I mean, sure, you could be accused of spreading paranoia and fear and all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, these types of people are people we should be made aware of. And maybe you could say, well, we should also be paying more attention to good people who do good things. And I suppose there's real argument to be made there that maybe I should do more content in that sort of direction, and maybe I will. But, in this particular series, I'm looking at some of the worst types of people in human history. And that about wraps it up for this episode. I didn't go into as many details as I possibly could have, but it's it's just a little bit of history for you. Have a good one and all that. Bye bye.